If I could have one wish for the world, it would be that men and women could get pregnant. Hey guys, welcome to Too Personal. It's Joy Taylor. Thanks so much for joining us this week. Hope you had an amazing weekend. If you haven't already, make sure that you hit subscribe and follow us on social at Too Personal Show. We'll also get to Never Too Personal as we do every single week later in the show. I have a really good question this week. Still a lot of OnlyFans questions. I feel like we covered that, but and the feet pics as well. But some thoughtful ones have crept through as well. So we'll get to one of those a little bit later. But I wanted to talk about motherhood this week. And this is a topic that I've visited a few times. And being that it is a layered topic, there's ways to revisit it. And I was thinking about it over the weekend because I'm going to have my 15th niece or nephew. Number 15 is on the way. And so often the conversation about motherhood comes up. I don't get asked about having kids by people that know me well anymore. There was a bit of a chapter over the past few years where almost everyone was asking me if I was going to have kids. And there was also a chapter where everyone that I dated was insisting on having children. That was also very weird because I'm very open about not wanting children. And so I don't get asked about it too much from people that know me well. People that don't know me, I still think it's a very weird question because you never know what someone's personal journey with motherhood is or where along that journey they are. But I was just thinking about the public conversation around motherhood as it currently stands, and just this frantic energy around femininity and what it means to be a mother and the right kind of mother and the right kind of woman and a traditional woman and someone who wants to have children and wants to fulfill their destiny of being a mother, and all of this pressure and conversation that we have around motherhood. And I think in some ways I observe it so much because I don't want to be a mother that I see the pressures that are put on women who want to be mothers, who are mothers, who have grown children now, who are grandmothers, who have wanted to be mothers and have lost children, or have had really complicated pregnancies, who are still recovering from pregnancy. There's all these different elements to motherhood that just kind of get broad stroked by the public conversation around motherhood right now. And while I certainly blame the patriarchy, as I should, and I certainly blame men in power who make laws about women's bodies, I also blame women as well, because the pressure and the conversation about how to be a mom and when to be a mom and why you should want to be a mom and how many times you should be a mom and in the way that you become a mom or who you become a mom with or what and where you raise your child and what kind of formula you give them and if you breastfeed or not and if they're homeschooled or if they go to private school or if they have tutors or what kind of extracurriculars they are, if you allow them to be themselves, if they are gay or if they're creative or they're athletes. Like there's just these endless boxes to tick when it comes to children and motherhood. And we don't have these conversations about fatherhood. We don't. We always put it on the mother first. Sometimes it gets put into parents, but it is never just the father. It's always either the mother or the parents. It's not an independent, what is the father going to do about this? How is the father examining this? It's never about that. And what really strikes me is just how complicated pregnancy is. I'm at my sister-in-law's baby shower this weekend and listening to the conversations about when she's due and whether it's going to be a C-section or not and how, did she go to term with their first baby and, how much did they weigh? And there's so many different factors. And the weekend before I was talking to someone who had an at-home birth and all the judgment that comes with that. And well, what's so risky? What if something happens and you're not at the hospital and your husband has to do this and there has to be a midwife there and a doula and what kind of blood work you have to do. And as complicated as pregnancy is, as complicated as motherhood is, as much pressure as there is to be this perfect version of the hardest thing you will ever do, I just find it so fascinating that we minimize it by talking about having kids the way that we do. It's so complicated to get pregnant, to carry the baby, to deliver a healthy baby or an alive baby, to then get through postpartum, and then you have an infant to raise. And if you're a first-time mom, you have no experience and nothing at all can ever prepare you for it because there is no experience like being a first-time mother and having to go through all of that with your body. Or even if you don't do that, even if you have a surrogate, there's so much to it. And when I hear all the conversations around it and I see the conversations, particularly from this trad wife movement about how it's a woman's purpose and, so much about feminism is, taking away a woman's natural desire to do this. And we need women to get back to what they're like. I feel like that is more minimizing to motherhood than the other side of it. I think women who are actively choosing not to have children, who are waiting until later on in life to have children, who are building their careers and their money and establishing themselves and then finding partners, who are choosing not to have partners at all, women who are freezing their eggs, women who are choosing to have smaller families. Like, I feel like that side of things is actually honoring and paying attention to the complex nature and physical toll that pregnancy and delivery and postpartum has for women and what motherhood is for women, then this broad stroke of traditional, like, this is what it is, just pop kids out. I think it plays a huge role in maternal mortality rates. I think it plays a huge role in how people are raising their children from a young age and the support that they have within their communities, within their families. The entire conversation about the birth rate and how people can just suck it up, and people who have had less have had children and they've figured it out. Like, having a child is so hard. Getting pregnant and having a healthy child and healthy mother is so hard. And you can do everything right and it can still go wrong. You can eat perfect. You can eat all the fruits. You can not have sushi. You can not have the deli meats. You can do everything perfect and it still go wrong. There's so much to it. And then so much after that, once the baby is here. I just wish we would just have the real conversation in the way that I wish we would have real conversations about money, in the way we should have real conversations about marriage and divorce and education and getting old and menopause and perimenopause. Like, we need to have real conversations about motherhood and pregnancy and stop stroking it with this patriarchal trad wife bullshit that it's just this thing you're supposed to do. What about for the women who can't get pregnant? What about for the women who have gotten pregnant and tragically lost their child? What about for the women who have had horrific pregnancy experiences where their body has gone through full-on trauma and they are barely functioning after one child? Stop broad stroking what is an elaborate, scary experience where you're putting your life and body on the line to bring a child into this world. I read something somewhere that war is easier for men because only a woman knows how hard it is to bring a life into this world. And I'm probably butchering that quote, but it really stuck with me because I think in all the conversations that we have about pro-life, about abortion, about maternal mortality rates, about trad wives, about this gender war, about the dropping birth rate, everything is just broad stroked as if it is just this thing that everyone can do and everyone should just embrace it and it's easy and you figure it out and you owe it to society to make children. Like, get the fuck out of here. I have been around children my entire life. I am not a mother. I have not been pregnant. I know how hard it is to do that because I have eyeballs, because I have the ability to see someone else experience something and be able to apply what that experience would be for my life. I respect those struggles. And that is why I hold it in such a high regard. And it's just, if I could have one wish for the world, it would be that men and women could get pregnant. Because if men and women could be pregnant, we would not be having these conversations. This would not be an issue. If men could get pregnant, you could get an abortion at a drive-thru. If men could get pregnant, the studies that would have been done on giving birth, you could give birth and feel absolutely nothing and recover in 3 days. The advancements that would have been done in the medical field to make childbirth as seamless, as safe, as comfortable, the recovery, all of it as perfect as possible would be light years beyond what we are right now. I think what we need to start working on, lady scientists, is figuring out how to get men pregnant. I think that's my solution. I'm always looking for society solutions, and I think that's what it is. I'm really not making this a men or women thing because I think women are guilty as well of saying things like, well, I suffered, so why can't you? It's not that bad. Get over it. You'll figure it out. We all have. That's not good reasoning. It's pathetic and it's weak. And it's dismissal of what is a very, very serious thing. And just because it went smoothly for you does not mean it will go smoothly for the next person. And if you really care about family and you really care about women and you really care about women making babies, then this should be a broader, much more complicated, much more nuanced, much more real conversation. So since we're not going to do that, I think the other solution is to make it so that men can have babies. What do you think happens first? All right. Well, it's time to get to Never Too Personal. If you want to be a part of the show, email us at toopersonalpodcast@gmail.com, or you can send us a DM on social at toopersonalshow. This question is it worth trying to fix a relationship with my mother who is toxic? What an appropriate question for this week. So, I will say this. I need a lot more context to this question. I need to know what's happening now, what happened before, why is she toxic, what is the toxic, how long has this toxic experience been going on for, what are the dynamics of your relationship, of your family? There are a lot of questions that I have. So I can't answer this particular question directly. But what I will say is this. I am the final boss of cutting family off. Like, I do not care who you are to me. If you disrupt my peace consistently, if you are a person who completely lacks integrity and accountability, kindness, empathy, dignity, respect, you're not going to have a place in my life. I don't care if you are my family, my friends, my partner in business. I do not care about cutting people off. I feel nothing about it. And the reason I feel nothing about it is because you don't feel anything about it. If that person is not acting the way that they should, meaning that they care about me or my peace or my happiness or my heart, why would I care about cutting them off? They don't like me. At base, they don't like me. Further, they might hate me. So I think when it comes to cutting off toxic family members or fixing it, trying to fix a relationship with a mother who is toxic, which is the question, I have toxic family members. And for some of those relationships, I have tried to fix them. Once I realize that this is truly who this person is, I no longer try to fix it. Because whether they're family or not is irrelevant to me. Just because you are my family member does not mean that you give a fuck about me at all. And it is a very old school mentality of, well, that's blood, so you got to deal with it. No, the fuck I do not. No, I don't. No, I don't, and I won't. And it hurts. Like if it's a parent or if it's a sibling or a cousin or an aunt or uncle, like it doesn't matter who it is. If you've had a close relationship with that person and they continue to be toxic and not value you, it can really hurt to cut them off. And you might feel inclined to give them another chance and try to work through it. My thing is, if they haven't taken any accountability for their actions, why are you trying to fix it? Because you're really just hoping that they're going to change. And that's not a good strategy. I can't broad stroke the situation because I don't know anything about it. But when it comes to toxic parents, they got years and years and years and years and years of work to do. And what's more than likely is they're not going to do the work because that's not what their generation has taught them to do. They'd have to really be heartbroken about losing a relationship with you and show actions and not just words that their toxic ways have ended or that they're working on it. At the end of the day, you only have but so much time on this earth, and nobody is giving out struggle prizes. There's no oppression Olympics. There's no struggle Olympics. You don't get the gold medal for having suffered the most. So why are you putting yourself through it? It can be heartbreaking to let a family member go because of their toxicity. It can be. And it's fair. And it's almost like a death, especially if it's family, because your mother, that's a irreplaceable relationship. But if that person doesn't value you and that person is causing you extreme distress in the way a toxic person, not just a, sad person or a person who's struggling or, somebody who might be a little bit selfish, a toxic person can ruin your life. And you have to have boundaries strong enough to prevent them from doing that. So again, I don't know the nuance of the situation. I will say for me, I do not allow toxic people in my spaces. You are not allowed around me. I cannot deal with it. I've been through it enough times to know that there is absolutely no value. You do not win any award for surviving the most toxic person on earth. I've searched high and low. There are no such games that exist. They do not hand out those prizes. You get an L. That's what it is, especially if it's by choice. Sometimes with family, it can feel like it's not your choice, but your life is yours. And if this person is ruining it, they shouldn't have a space in your life, and they're not owed it, not by you or by anyone else. So I hope that helps. Good luck. That sounds horrible, and I'm sorry that's happening to you. But if you want to be a part of the show, twopersonalpodcast@gmail.com. And you can also DM us at twopersonalshow. Protect your peace and join us for the next episode. And make sure you hit subscribe and follow us. Bye.